Hello and welcome to Curious Austrian Tours. While he's arguably the classiest cat in all of Greater London, however, he never really existed as an ordinary cat, and now a definitive hint. This cat occasionally dines with guests of the Savoy Hotel. Who is he? Or better, who in the world is Kaspar? Legend has it that in 1898 a South African diamond magnate by the name of Wolf Joel was visiting and held a banquet at a famous Savoy hotel before returning home. At the last minute, one of his guests had to cancel, leaving 13 guests to sit at a table which one apparently superstitious guest said was unlucky. After an enjoyable dinner, Mr. Joel said goodbyes and got up in order to leave. The same guest then said that the first person to leave would also be unlucky and would be the first of the group of people to die. Joel sneered at this suggestion and suggested to reassure his guests' possible worry by leaving the table first. When back home in Johannesburg a few weeks later, Joel was shot dead in his office by a blackmailer, Baron Kurt von Feldheim, whose real name was Karl Friedrich Moritz Kurze. Joel's death made a particular impression on his dinner guests and by extension the management of the Savoy. Take no further chances, it was decreed that in future any table of 13 will be joined by a member of staff as a 14th guest, and for the next few decades a waiter would duly be roped in as necessity dictated. This was not the most convenient of solutions, however. Firstly, the presence of a stranger at the table prevented the discussion of confidential matters, and for many clients this was the reason that they had convened in the first place. Secondly, it deprived the hotel of the services of a waiter for the duration of the function, no small matter at busy times of day. Another solution had to be found. The Savoy's famous black cat Kaspar was carved in 1927 by the British architect and designer Basil Iondis, so from one single block of London Plain. His intended function was to act as the 14th guest in the private dining rooms when 13 guests were present, and his creation was directly related to the unfortunate demise of that particular Savoy client over a quarter of a century earlier. That solution was Kaspar, a roughly 60 cm tall black Art Deco feline gentleman. To this very day, at tables of 13, the lucky cat gets the full works. A napkin is tied around his neck and is served the same food and drink as all the other guests. He's even given his own source of milk. Indeed, it's an ultimate honor for any guest of the Savoy to dine with Kaspar. Kaspar does not contribute much to the conversation at a table, but can be trusted upon for absolute discretion afterwards. By the way, did you know that when during the Second World War, Kaspar was literally catnapped on one occasion by some naughty Royal Air Force personnel and flown all the way to Singapore? It was Sir Winston Churchill himself, I know, keeps appearing in my YouTube videos, who insisted on Kaspar's immediate return. Kaspar, the Savoy cat, dines also in Pinafore, traditionally home of the other club, which is a private dining club that meets regularly while Parliament is in session. The other club was founded by Lord Birkenhead and Sir Winston Churchill. Oh, him again! In 1910, four distinguished figures from the world of politics, arts and the media. This club has been meeting in Pinafore since the first dinner in 1911. After wide-ranging and expensive refurbishment, costing roughly £220 million, which took almost 3 years, the Savoy Hotel reopened in October 2010 and dear Kaspar returned. When not on duty, Kaspar, the lucky cat, loves sitting in state in front hall, watching the world go by. The renowned children's book author Michael Morpurgo was selected as the writer-in-residence at the Savoy Hotel in 2007. Inspired by the hotel and the story of Kaspar, Michael reimagined the history of his lucky cat and subsequently published a novel titled Kaspar, Prince of Cats in the following year. To honor Kaspar and pay tribute to his many decades of serving, in 2015 a new anamorphic sculpture was commissioned from South African artist John T. Hurwitz, and this sculpture presides over the new venue. Anamorphic meaning relating to a distorted projection or drawing that appears normal when viewed from a particular point of a suitable mirror or lens. I'd like to give you a hint, potential future video, on Holbein's The Ambassadors at the National Gallery here in London. There are two theories as to the origin of the number 13 being unlucky. One derives from Norse mythology, in which 12 gods sat down to a banquet in Valhalla. The evil spirit Loki, without warning, joined the party as its 13th member of the party and killed the god's favorite, Balder. 13 also has significance to Christians, as there were 13 people at the Last Supper, and the traitor Judas was the 13th and last to arrive. As to why referring to a cat, animals have held an important role in mythology and superstition over the centuries, and black cats in particular are considered by many cultures to be lucky, although by some other polar opposite. By the way, if you should plan a visit to the Savoy Hotel and you are about to leave it again, if you carry on east along the Strand, passing Somerset House and King's College, walk along Fleet Street until you reach the alleyway called Johnson's Court on the left. Follow this through and you get to Guff Square. And whom will you be meeting there? Hodge, the lexicographical cat. Guff Square was once home to Dr. Samuel Johnson, a man of wit most famous for his popular dictionary. His house still stands and serves as a museum to the man. Also in the square, you'll find this delightful statue again of Hodge, Johnson's beloved cat. It is a bronze sculpture and sits on top of a copy of the dictionary with oyster shells strewn around. On a side note, oysters were once a cheap, common food and not considered a delicacy at all. Alright, that's it for today, and as always I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel or like this video, and I shall be welcoming you back again before long. Cheerio!